What's the story with the iconic blue IKEA FRAKTA tote? Surely the world's most functional and hardworking bag.
Turophobia is the fear of cheese. What are some of the more unusual phobias?
What does it mean to be doing a Bradbury?
Finally, in this episode, why did the Polish composer Frederick Chopin ask for his heart to be removed from his body when he died?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Remorandom. I'm Remo Giuffre.
And I'm Claudia Chanshaw.
So, busy times, Claudia, for you. You're off to Singapore when?
I am, let me see, what's today? Very shortly, in a few days, I'm heading off to Singapore. And you know, people say, are you going away again? Have you packed? No.
But it's
no,
work, right?
I've
I've
never
right?
packed.
It's work,
It is,
right?
it's work. I'm heading to Singapore to lead a wonderful tour for the Art Gallery Society, and it's an Art Deco tour to Singapore. Because would you believe there is Art Deco in Singapore? We think of it as a squeaky clean, like from the 1950s, but no, it's got Art Deco.
Yeah, right. And have you been a bunch of times, or are you learning as well, learning as you go?
This is the third time I've done the Art Deco Singapore tour, and I've been to Singapore.
You're an old hand.
Five times in 3 years. So knowing it well now.
Yeah, great.
Never get used to the humidity though.
Well, you're going to need a bag to pack, and the first bag I want to talk about today is the IKEA FRAKTA bag. You know it, right? It's that big blue bag that everyone has in the back of their car or jammed in their closet. I doubt there'd be too many homes around the world that doesn't have one of these, you know, holding a mulch in the backyard or dirty laundry or whatever. So it is very, very functional, very, very hardworking, very, very tough. It can actually comfortably handle 50-kilogram load, which is a lot.
Wow.
In one of those bags. So
I could pop inside. You could pop me over your shoulder.
Well, we'll get to that. Not that I'm calling you a dog or a pet, but we'll get to that in a minute. But so the FRAKTA bag, the origin can be traced back to the 60s. So Ingvar Kamprad, who's the founder of IKEA, who founded it in 1943, they used to sell lots of little doodads and small furnishings even in those days. Candles, etc., and so forth. So what he found observing people's behavior in shops is that they struggled to handle all of the bits and pieces that they wanted to buy. So they developed these yellow bags for people to walk around with to collect their stuff and take it to the cash register and pay for it and so forth. But then how to take it home. So he came up with this idea that blue, being the other Swedish flag colour, that they would introduce the blue bag. So blue means you can take that home, you can buy or take that home. Yellow, please leave it here, it belongs to us. So that was the birth of the bag that is now so ubiquitous and iconic to the extent that in 2017 the luxury fashion brand Balenciaga designed a large blue tote bag that bore a striking resemblance to the IKEA tote, but was made in leather, blue leather, same form factor, same handle length, etc. But its price tag wasn't, $3.25 or whatever the FRAKTA costs. It was £1,705. IKEA, to their credit, very classy in their response. They were flattered, but they proceeded to publish a guide for people to know how to identify an IKEA FRAKTA bag from the leather imitation. And they instructed people, if it didn't rustle when they shook it, it wasn't the real deal. The real deal being that the IKEA one. So people have been very ingenious to work out ways to use this bag over the years. We've got a bunch of pictures. This appears in Memorandum 3, the yellow book, and we've got a bunch of pictures with examples from around the world, people using the bags to rescue and release swans, people cutting them up and creating face masks and backpacks out of them. There's tough material, very distinctive. The keeping the wedding dress out of the loo, you're basically standing in an IKEA bag with holes in it and pulling it up so your wedding train doesn't get flushed down the toilet. Actually, I have a personal one. My son Roman and his mates grew up here in and around Bondi and would often paddle out the heads and north, toward the heads. And sometimes it was windy enough, and one of Roman's mates, Jonas, had an IKEA tote with him and held it up, basically lay on his back on his paddleboard and held the bag up as a sail.
As a sail, excellent.
It propelled him all the way to Watson's Bay. I have a photo to prove it. But probably the most amusing use of the tote referenced a New York City law that you couldn't take dogs on public transport unless they could fit in a bag. Of course, they were imagining like little lap dogs, right? So the ingenious and inventive owners of large dogs in that city could soon be seen carrying all manner of giant dog in IKEA Fracta bags with basically just holes cut in the bottom for the four legs. And this big German Shepherd, shrouded in blue material, walking on and off public transport. So
that's cute.
Yeah, so IKEA know that they're sitting on an icon, and they've made film tributes to the bag. You can watch those online. Do you have one? Do you have a bunch at home, or?
Of course. There's one in the boot of the car. There are a couple in the wardrobe, and they're so big. I wrap them up and sort of put a rubber band around them because they're so wide. They're a little unwieldy. So towels and things like that work very well in it, but small objects move around.
I like that the handles are long enough to go over your shoulder because if we're taking orders to the post office or something, and I'll sort of piggyback the afternoon dog walk with a schlep of an IKEA bag over my shoulder with a bunch of books to send out to customers and stuff. So,
or you could put the dog in the bag and be like a New Yorker.
Not big enough. What are you going to talk about now?
Well, I'm a bit worried. I'm nervous. I'm worried and nervous because I left my phone at home and I'm a little bit lost without it. Do you think there's a word for fear of being out of mobile phone contact?
I think you're going to tell me.
I think I am. Nomophobia. Phobias. What's a phobia? A phobia is an anxiety disorder. It's a persistent and excessive fear of an object or a situation, making myself nervous just telling you about it. And they can develop for all sorts of reasons. It can be something that happened during childhood, some trauma, something dramatic in childhood, brain chemistry, maybe it's your genetics. Lots of reasons for developing phobias. Now, if you were afraid of a large blue bag from IKEA, that would be fractophobia, would it not?
You're making all of this up, I'm sure.
I know. That's my own invention. But there are some real doozies that are absolutely real. And what I'm about to tell you is real. So what do you think pantherophobia is? What do you reckon?
I'm going to have to look it up.
Oh, don't. Just guess.
No way. What is it?
Fear of mother-in-laws.
Ah, okay.
There's a word for it. Fear of mother-in-laws.
My mother-in-law is still alive. And so there you go. Maybe I'm scared of Jessica.
I'm sure you love Jessica and you're not fearful at all. But you're what's the opposite to phobia? What's love?
I have a bunch of phobias, by the way.
Do you? You want to share? Seeing we're on the couch?
Bridges and, driving, often like walking across bridges, I kind of freak out a little bit.
Oh, I don't like heights.
Yeah. No, I don't like heights either. I think a lot of people would have that one.
I'm not comfortable with heights. I'm not going to skydive. I'm not going to jump out of an airplane. And if I'm on a balcony, I'll stand back from the balcony. I won't stand near the edge.
I can't even watch other people near the edge of something.
Now, here's one for you. Electrophobia. Electrophobia. Well, not electric, but electrophobia.
What's that?
That is a fear of chickens.
Oh, my God. Cooked or alive? Cooked or alive?
Doesn't specify. I think alive. I think alive. And now, then there's fear of dancing. What do you think that is? Dancing. Fear of dancing.
Gee, maybe that's another phobia that I've got.
Oh, well,
what's it called?
This is chorophobia. Choro.
Okay.
Chorophobia. So you'd have to say, sorry, I have to decline your lovely offer to go on Dancing with the Stars because I have chorophobia. Chorophobia. Now, here's one that I definitely do not have. This is a mouthful. This is consecutaliophobia. Consecutaliophobia.
Right.
That is fear of chopsticks.
Wow. Okay. No,
I don't
you
have
wouldn't
that.
You were born with chopsticks.
That's right. I do not have consecutaliophobia. Now, a lot of people are afraid of clowns, aren't they? You hear of that? If maybe they had some sort of childhood trauma at a kid's party.
I wonder if clowns have developed this kind of sinister reputation. Maybe that's unfounded. But
well, they're pretty scary looking.
They are.
So, fear of clowns is coulrophobia. Coulrophobia.
Right.
Coulrophobia. Now, I've got one for you, Remo. What do you think this is? You'll guess this. Arithmophobia.
Is that fear of maths or
fear of numbers? Yeah,
fear of
that's
numbers?
not you, is it?
No, I quite like numbers. I know that I've got the list that you're reading from in front of me. I've highlighted a couple of my faves. Can I share a couple?
To tell.
How do I pronounce this? Kumpunophobia, fear of buttons on clothing. That's an inconvenient one.
Okay. It's in...
Optophobia, fear of opening one's eyes. So that wins the prize for the most inconvenient phobia you can have.
Very, because if you have a choice, it'd be nice to open them. What do you think papaphobia is? Papaphobia. Papaphobia is fear of the Pope.
Oh, no.
Il Papa. Now, this is very specific. This is arachibutyrophobia. Arachibutyrophobia.
Okay, what's that?
Arachibutyrophobia. That is fear of having peanut butter stuck to the roof of your mouth.
Oh, that is very specific.
It is very. Then there's globophobia. Globophobia, which is a fear of balloons, which kind of goes back to the fear of clowns.
Yeah.
Or do you think fear of belly buttons is?
Belly phobia. What is it? What's it called?
Belly buttons. This is omphalophobia.
Right. There's a whole world of phobias.
What were you going to say?
Teratophobia is the fear of giving birth to a monster or a disfigured fetus.
Oh, that's not very nice.
Everyone's afraid of that.
Oh, that's awful. All right, and we'll finish the phobia section with what is phobophobia? Phobophobia.
Oh, that's the worst. That's our favourite, right? That's our favourite.
That's fear of phobias.
I know. I'm scared. I can barely move. I'm not going anywhere.
I love that. I love these words, and they are real. So fractophobia was a fake. I threw that in just to see if you're paying attention. But all of these others are real, even the fear of chopsticks.
Thanks, Claudia. That brings us to doing Bradbury. So every Australian with even a passing interest in sport knows this story. Stephen Bradbury, an Australian short track speed skater. That's hard to say.
Short track speed skater.
He, in 2002, the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, he famously won the 1,000-meter event after literally all of his opponents were involved in this last corner pile-up and wrote themselves off. So the funnest thing to do is to watch this video and look at his face as he skates past the crashing bodies and realizes that the delight and yet slightly embarrassed look on his face that he's actually going to win the gold medal because he is the last man standing. So he won. He was the last man standing, which became the title of his subsequent book, and even the brand of a beer that he has a founding interest in. Good to see someone. I'm looking at you, Reagan. Good to see someone take advantage of their good or bad fortune at the Olympic Games. So it wasn't completely. There was a certain amount of premeditation. His coach, Anne Zhang, knew that he was good, but maybe not fast enough to, win a medal in normal circumstances. He'd been doing what he does for a long time. He'd put in the hard yards, but the strategy that they came up with was he would hold back, reasoning that the chances were that a couple of the skaters would get entangled and there would be a fall, in which case he'd be there, Johnny on the spot, Stevie on the spot, to get a medal. He never imagined that everyone would be wiped out. So the lesson there is that secret to success is about just turning up and staying upright. That's the deal. So doing a Bradbury has become the Australian colloquial vernacular, meaning to enjoy unexpected or unusual success. The Australian National Dictionary even added that as a phrase in 2016.
Doing a Bradbury.
Doing a Bradbury. It's been embedded in the Australian culture, and hopefully now through the readership of Remorandum, it is now a common global phrase. Everyone's going to be saying it. He it's not all that positive inequity. He did work hard. He deserved his victory, and he's a good bloke because his 15 minutes of fame have lasted all the way to as recently as 2023, because he rescued 4 teenage girls from treacherous surf conditions at Kings Beach on the Sunshine Coast, and the Governor General recognised his heroic efforts. Not content to do one iconic thing, he's followed up with another rescue, and I'm sure there'll be more Bradbury stories to come. So there you have it.
Saving
Doing
14 girls. 14 girls from the surf. Is it 14?
4 teenage.
4.
4 teen age, not 14 age girls. What? That is the most unusually not ambiguous thing that I said. But anyway.
14 girls. Sorry, I'll come back to you. I've got to tell you about Chopin's heart.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, go.
I mean, I know you want to be doing a Bradbury and be the last man standing, but I've got things to tell you, important things. Now, what do we know about Frederick Chopin? We know that he's a renowned Polish composer and pianist. Now, the weird thing is, during his final days on this earth, he's at his home in Paris, and he asked his sister, Ludwika, I want you to do me a favor, and it was a rather unusual favor. He asked her to arrange for his heart, his actual heart, to be taken from his corpse and smuggled back to his homeland in Poland. Now, why would he do this? Why? Because Chopin had a phobia. Don't you love the way we just circled back there?
Yeah,
he had
beautiful.
a fear of being buried alive, which is called Turophobia. And so if he had his heart removed, he would know that he was well and truly dead
Right.
and was therefore not going to be buried alive. So he dies in 1849. Ludwika, the sister, pops the heart into a jar of alcohol and hides it under her cloak, and then smuggles it in across the border, cleverly avoiding the Russian officers at the border. You have anything to declare there, madam? Oh, no, nothing at all.
You've
So
got
the
all the
heart-
voices.
So the heart ends up in the Holy Cross Church in Warsaw. But that's not where it ends. During the Warsaw Uprising in 1944, the playing of Chopin's music was outlawed, and Nazi officers removed the heart from the church, and they gave it to the SS commander Erich von dem Bach-Zewinski, who popped it into his little collection of curios on a shelf. It was later returned to the Polish people on the 17th of October 1945, when it was all over, and a delegation went with the heart and returned it to the Holy Cross Church. Now, Chopin had died pretty young. He died at the age of 39. So because they had the heart, the scholars and the scientists thought, let's find out why he died so young, just out of interest. So they thought he died from tuberculosis, but maybe it was cystic fibrosis. So in 2014, the scientists took a peek at Chopin's heart, and they were amazed. They were not amazed by what it looked like, but its size. This heart was enormous. Now, Chopin had been, an average height guy, slight build,
Wow.
but he had a whopping great heart.
The far
So-
lap of the musical game.
It is the far lap of the piano world. So it's thought that the cause of death was a rare case of pericarditis, which is associated with complications of chronic tuberculosis. So the mystery was not about, how did he die? But, my God, this man's got a big heart.
Why
So
didn't he die
that's-
sooner? Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe it was taking up room in his chest. I can't breathe. But that Chopin, that's a man with a big heart.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, I love that image of the woman smuggling it. I read somewhere that the alcohol was something exotic too. It was like cognac or the alcohol that the heart was submerged in. It wasn't like regular rubbing alcohol or something.
Well,
Plain
that'd
vanilla.
keep it preserved. That'd
But,
keep it nice
yeah,
and
so
pickled.
the actual heart, and that story was contributed by one of our readers. 50% thereabouts of every book's ideas come in from the community of readers. Keep them coming, I reckon. Keep them coming. There's more
Indeed.
Chopin heart type stories out there. Keep them coming. So, Claudia, we're not the only podcast in town. We're not the only Remorandom podcast in town. There is another one called Remorandom Readings, and it's a funny one. It's a cool thing. It wasn't my idea. Just one of our readers, James France, had this idea. He's a volunteer at a community radio station called 2RPH here in Sydney. They are part of a network of stations that read articles from the newspaper and magazines for their audience who, not all, but many of whom are sight impaired, can't do their own reading. It's a great service. And James was recording chapters of Remorandum books. Each reading takes about 3 or 4 minutes. It was like the perfect length to fill the little holes that invariably popped up in their schedule. And I was flattered by this. His voice is much nicer than mine. Said yes. Would it be okay if I aggregated them and uploaded them in parallel as a podcast so that all of our readers and listeners could benefit from these like little snack-sized readings? And so James was the first volunteer. Then Dayani joined, and Natalie is a new reader, and I'm going to meet her tomorrow at the station. I have to be there before a certain time because she's heading off to ring the bells at St Mary's Cathedral. So here's the thing. the interesting people do interesting work. It just seems to follow. So Remorandom Readings, check it out on our website. There's a new tab called the Video Podcast, which has a fork in the road. One fork leads to Claudia and I, and this series, and the other fork leads to those readings, and I think you'll like them too. So that's all for me, and that's all for today.